This is your second video on rocks, and we're going to be going over the last two types in this one. The first or second type of rock we're going over in your notes is sedimentary rocks. If you notice the word sed, that is the root word, and that means to sit. And these are rocks that are made from small fragments or other pieces of rock. So small pieces of rock sit together to form a bigger, different type of rock. Up here, we've got two classic examples of limestone and sandstone. Now let's talk about the types of sedimentary rocks you will see in your lab later on. There's three types of sedimentary rock, and each one of them has a picture to go with it over here. The first is called a clastic, and these are made of segments glued together. Some of these are going to be called breccia or conglomerate. If any of you know what a conglomerate is when we talk about things in human society, it's when there's a good group of people, a large group of people packed together. Another way that you can remember that clastic is made up of pieces glued together is it's like rocks clustered, clastic and clustered rocks. The second main type is organic. Many of us use or have used this in the past. These are made from once living things that, as their bones fossilized and sat on the ocean floor or at the bottom of a swamp, they got pressed down into a rock. Some examples of this would be like the coal we burn for electricity. There's also fossil limestone, which is created from the bones of old seashells. So those are organic. They come from life. They come from organisms, which is another word for a type of life. The last type is a chemical sedimentary rock. These form when there's chemicals mixed in the water, and then the water evaporates, leaving the rock and minerals behind to form a new layer of rock. The biggest example of this would be limestone. There's also an example of what's called halite rocks, and these are rocks where their base component is types of salt. So like old seabeds would dry up, leaving a layer of salt rock underneath them. So those are sedimentary rocks. These are going to be formed by different rocks or things glued together. These are often going to form layers as well. The final type of rock is called a metamorphic rock. If you guys recall from any of us searching out for root words, meta means after, morph means to change. So these are rocks that are going to change after something. And more specifically, these are rocks that are changed from extreme heat and pressure inside of the earth. Sedimentary rocks are created with pressure over time. Igneous rocks are created with heat, but we're talking about extreme heats and pressures as these things get buried in the earth. As we're working through this, a couple of terms that you need to know. Every metamorphic rock, since there is something changing, again, that morph piece, the original rock that is changed into a metamorphic rock is called the parent rock. It is the starting rock. So granite is a type of igneous rock. It would get metamorphized by heat and pressure into something called gneiss. Shale, which is a sedimentary rock, would get metamorphized into slate, and sandstone would get metamorphized into what's called quartzite. And if you notice, especially here on the gneiss, you can see these nice bands that are going on here. And that leads into our two main types of metamorphic rocks. There are what are called foliated. I remember this as like folds. So when you fold, it leaves these neat lines. And this is where the minerals line up in layers or bands. Example, gneiss. And the G is silent on that. And then there's non-foliated. This is where even under the extreme heat and pressure, no special layers form, so it's just a chunk of rock. There's no fancy patterns to it. An example of this would be something like marble. Marble is one of those sedimentary rocks that got pressurized into something a lot smaller and tougher. So those are our main types of rocks. Make sure you have these notes handy because you will need them for your lab later this week.